Ladies and gentlemen, it's Ronsley, episode number 58, and this is part two of the amazing conversation that I had with Shafaat Hashmi in Dubai. It has been what a pleasure to get to know him, interview him, and talk to him on a regular basis. I now consider him a friend, which is really cool. But he talks about how to really transform brands into billion-dollar entities. We are continuing the conversation from part one. So if you haven't listened to the first episode or first part, go back to the previous episode and check that out. Really important for the foundations of this one. We talk about recognizing authenticity, transforming brands, the role of AI in branding, and we're talking about preparing the next generation for what is going to change so drastically because of artificial intelligence. Come, let's learn. Hey, it's Ronsley. Welcome, you AI geek, to this podcast, my AI love affair. Consider this podcast your digital compass, guiding you through the labyrinth that is business growth using artificial intelligence. Running a business as a creative can sometimes be like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. But what if you had a secret tool that could align all the colors for you? That is AI. It's like a master key unlocking multiple doors. Thanks for being here. Let's learn.
The other day when we met each other for the first time, or we crossed paths for the first time, for whatever reason you decided to point me out from the crowd when you were up on stage. What did you see? Because sometimes I would love to be able to see from your eyes what you saw, that you decided to say something about my presentation. What was that you saw that day?
Authenticity. An authentic man standing on the stage, and Gary. There are very few people who I actually click follow on my Instagram or LinkedIn, and one of them is Gary. I think he's authentic, he's original, he's just a nice guy.
And he's exactly the way he comes. Exactly. There's no difference. So I want to talk about brand transformation, because with BrandBeat, you've turned around businesses into billion-dollar brands. And could you share some key strategies on what you used in some of these transformations? What are the things that we can use in terms of, like, you have a brand? Is there a way that we can use some of these strategies to grow ours?
100%. I think, first of all, a lot of branding agencies and marketing departments go wrong. When something is not selling, they start looking at two things: advertising and pricing, media spend, or PR, or distribution channels, and pushing the product across with promotions and better margins, right? Before you go there, what a lot of people miss is the product itself. They don't look at the product itself. How relevant is the product? What are the features? How could the product be made better? People go and buy a substitute brand or another brand just because that brand has more credibility and they've been buying it for a while. That has been delivering on its promises. So the best way to put up a brand is to go back to the basics. And I've always transformed companies and brands by looking into the basics. What is the basic value, the core value that your brand delivers? Value for money. What's the value proposition? And you shouldn't be looking and listing out like 20 of those. You should be looking at one core value that it delivers. Maximum 3. That these are the 3 things that my product or my brand delivers. It could be emotional satisfaction, right? It could be that I'm carrying a Louis Vuitton or a YSL bag, and that gives me that positioning. It could be that. It could be one of those. But at the core is, what is it that is really delivering? What's its core business? And that's number 1. Number 2, is there a demand for it? If there's no demand for something, like pre-existing demand, you're probably in the wrong business, right? And demand means that there is a problem which has not been solved. That problem is so painful, it's so urgent, and moreover, people are ready to pay money for it to solve it. That means it has a demand. One thing humanity hates to change is to change.
Yes.
So adopting to a new brand, adopting to an innovative product, people are lazy. People don't want to do such things. People don't want to learn. People don't want to invest those extra 20 minutes or 1 hour to learn a new tool. And that's with the majority of the people. Some people love to learn new tool. And that community which loves to learn is the community with the early adopters in ChatGPT, AI, and so many other things, or Canva, because they want to learn something new, right? But people generally don't want to learn something new, right? Brands are transformed when you have a clear, distinct value proposition. You have your product or services well structured. You come across as somebody who is giving, not taking money out of someone. You are giving and giving and giving. You give an experience which is something that people remember, right? You need to find that value proposition from your customers. What is it that they value? And out of that, what is it that they're willing to pay more for?
Yes,
right?
yes.
And that's, I think, then comes the beauty, the branding, the advertising, the experience, the touch
Distribution
points, and all those things, they come later.
With AI coming in, how do we look at brand and how do we keep brand authentic and how do we keep brand to its identity? Because artificial intelligence seems to be making everything generic because people are not using it the right way. How can someone stay with their brand and use AI to actually even help them grow quicker, if that?
The application of AI is in 3 tiers. One application of the AI is business processes. Another application of AI is creativity.
Yeah.
And another application of AI is customer services or external communications, right? Now, obviously, you can leverage innovation by applying AI into the processes and let AI manage those processes and execute those things faster in way more efficient manner and with its own intelligence. And that's why if you're doing a health tech startup, you can put AI into it. If you're doing a prop tech startup, you can put AI. But AI's intelligence is dependent completely on the data that is fed with. And if that data is, inconsistent or is not being pulled out from the right source, your AI would give completely different results.
Yeah.
So a lot of people that I come across when they say, Shafaat, we need to leverage to AI, my first question is, what are the data points and how many data points are you trying to touch? And moreover, how are they churned and analyzed? And on what algorithms and what parameters? Because even if the algorithm is not right or is unstable, it might give you results which are discriminatory or which are not authentic. So that's on the process side. I think you don't really dilute your brand by applying AI at all 3 levels. I think if there's an AI generated image of your next upcoming campaign, or if you use ChatGPT to give you like 20 different taglines for your upcoming campaign, it's perfectly fine. But you still need some human element as of now to create that relevance between emotional appeal of your customers and you, which AI doesn't really feel.
Yeah.
Right? And most of the things connect that emotional connectivity. So I think when we have AI, yes, we can do a lot when it comes to IQ, but AI would always lack EQ. And EQ is something for which we need that marriage between a man and a machine. And that is what we call a perfect business, because there are decisions which have to be taken by humans with that human touch. And people need that. So AI, moreover, is still in its learning phase of its own. It's too early to see what that monster would look like. People have different perceptions about it. People think it's going to take away a lot of jobs. I think when internet came, people thought it's going to take away a lot of jobs. It never took away jobs. When website and e-commerce platforms started coming, people thought, oh, the retail is going to completely go away and a lot of people will lose jobs. Well, those guys have become e-com and Amazon, AWS experts now. So whenever new technology comes, it actually creates more jobs than it kills more jobs. Yeah. But it's only one thing that the population needs to really hop on to acquiring those skill sets which are relevant of today and the future. So AI, I think, is not something that's going to dilute the brand. I think it can increase your brand experience. It can increase your efficiency.
So I wanted to ask you this question. Having kids and with the world changing so quickly, how do you prepare them for the future? What kind of skills do you think the next generation needs to develop to survive? Because I always found it a bit, not weird, but a bit surprising that as humans, when we are born, we have to like learn, at least go to school for 12 years at least to operate on this planet. And I wonder whether that's going to change with AI coming around.
Expose them to as many new experiences as you can. It's experiential learning, which is a much better form of learning than reading books and going to a school and coming out as homogenized chickens. I think the education system is completely broken, and it's a whole mafia out there for universities, colleges, trying to make so much money, where people are dumped under, student loans. So it's the taxpayers' money which goes into grants, which goes into random research or professors who have never even worked ever in their life in a real-time environment.
The real world, yeah.
But they're just theory over theory over theory. And similarly, students going in, wasting fuel, wasting money, wasting so much, and just going through that 4 years. I mean, you want to give a nice experience, give them an experience for 6 months. And, that's a college experience, that's a university life. 6 months, do whatever the hell you want to do, and then, go back to your real life. So I think exposure is important. For my own children, I brought them to my office at a very early age. When my son was 3, he started coming to my office, started playing in agency, understood what branding is. He used to paint, color. Children love to do that. Children love arts. Children love creativity. Children love producing music. Children love working and innovating on products and puzzles. So I gave them that exposure of what an office looks like. I showed them what real estate looks like. I showed my daughter what real estate looks like, and she always has some great feedback on interiors, on layouts and floor plans when she's just 9 years old. So it's true with my son. My son has his own brand of handmade t-shirt because he's a skinny guy. So he's like, whenever I go, I get my age group stuff, which is loose. There's nothing for skinny guys like me. One, it's just a one size fits all, 10 to 12, 12 to 14, whatever. The second thing which he picked up was that why do all the designers think that we are still children and kids and you have to snap a cartoon picture on my t-shirt? We're grown up. We want to dress up like our dad. We want to dress up like somebody else. We don't want to dress up the way they want me to dress up. So he came up with his own line, with his own art, with things that he believes is great. So there was a clear market for it, a clear value prop. My daughter, I once asked her, I was like, Noor, what kind of a business would you like to do? And she was like, oh, well, I think I should have a nice website, a nice e-commerce website. And I was like, okay, so what's that website going to sell? What is your brand going to be? And she looked at me and she said, Baba, everything. It should sell everything. And for a moment I was like, what do you mean? How could you sell just everything? And she was like, why not? And that was that moment of truth from a 9-year-old girl, my daughter, when I was like, was Jeff Bezos thinking the same thing?
Yes.
And a 9-year-old is thinking that vision. What am I supposed to do? How do I put that together? So we started working on something, which is how to sell everything. And I've got a team working on it for the last about 1 year to figure out how on earth can I just create something where I can sell everything.
Wow.
Right? So children, when you give them exposure, when you bring young children into business meetings, when you take young children into entertainment and social gatherings, when you take children to new countries, new cities, you travel, new people, new locations, 5-star dining or 2-star dining and street dining, that's where children learn the real education. And that's the education because children are generally curious. They have their own perception. They see things from their own lens. And they like to practice, they like to explore, they like to discover.
How do you pick your investments, and what else do you look for when you put money against investments?
Fundamentals. When everybody is talking about an investment, I don't put money there because it has already gone into masses. And when an investment product goes into masses, its competition, it gets ruined, and a few years later, a few months later, it melts down. Real estate is a typical example. You go into real estate investments when nobody's investing. You start building projects. When the market is ripe 3 years, 4 years later, you start selling. And that's when everybody says, oh, let's start investing in Dubai. Okay, it's about being there and showing up there through your vision that what would that industry, that sector, that product, or that customer consumer behavior or market sentiment would look like 3 years, 4 years, 5 years from now. And that's where you need to invest. And this is one of the reasons that we always invest in pre-seed and seed stage startups, is because I see the vision, what is it going to look like 3 years from now. I really look at the fundamentals. I'm a no BS guy. So when people come to me and they tell me, we're going to offer you an exit in pre-series A or series A, or this is going to happen, or that is going to happen, I don't really bite at such things. I look at simple monetization models that, okay, this is the ROI, this is how much you're going to sell, by so many units or so many subscriptions, you're going to be profitable. Okay, you're giving me this much, how quickly am I going to get my money back? The bottom line is, when you invest, you simply look at a few things. Is it scalable? Is it unique? Is it monetizable? And how fast it can get into profitability, how fast it can be bootstrapped, and how much real investment is needed.
Yeah.
You see, I mean, our money or my investors' money or my LP's monies or my own money is not there for someone to experiment. You want to test your market, test your product, well, that's, go get someone else's money. But with us, we love to look at some kind of market validation, the option to scale, and how fast we can get into profits.
At an earlier point in this conversation, you spoke about preparedness. What kind of failures have you seen? And I'm very curious to hear the stories, because you must have seen a lot in your lifetime in the things that you pursue and the things that you said you've been to 3 crashes. Were you in a position to balance out the risk in those times? What were your situations like? Was failure a part of your entrepreneurial journey?
I don't really think there's anything known as success or failure. It's perception. It is set against parameters. This is the parameter. If you can perform better than this, you're successful. And if you perform less than this, failure. The question is, who the hell are you to put those parameters out there? And who has put those parameters?
And sometimes we put them on ourselves.
There's an intelligent child, and he continues to fail in grade 6, grade 7 in 2 or 3 subjects. Right? Who has set those parameters to suggest that the person has failed? The person might be a genius and is way ahead than what you guys are teaching him and against what you're testing him. So to me, there is nothing known as success or failure. I think success is that you were born, and that success is not something that you can put on your own self. You were born because of whatever reasons.
Yeah.
And success is that you were able to live without hurting a soul or breaking someone's heart, and you die, and you die successfully.
Yeah.
So anything in between, to me, is extremely relative.
The one that I really want to ask before the last one is about business ethics, because I think now more and more with AI coming into the fore, things that can be done so quickly can be done very quickly. How do we set these ethical frameworks for ourselves when it comes to our business and doing the right thing? And I'm keen to understand how you balance profit making with ethical considerations, and how do we make sure that wisdom stays alive?
Somebody told me a few months ago, she said, Shafaat, you're not God. I was like, I know that. What made you say that? And she was like, you're not responsible for everything that happens in the world. Because this is who I am. I try to solve everything around me. So ethics comes out of empathy. That's the root. If you don't have empathy, you will not have ethics. And people sometimes just need to experience it on their own, that unethical practices in business are not sustainable. I would rather have less profits with an ethical standard and make it more sustainable in long term than go unethical, create a fad out of it in 1 or 2 years. If you haven't lost your health, you haven't lost anything. If you haven't lost your core relationships, who love you, not necessarily who you love, but who love you and care about you, you haven't lost anything. If you haven't lost your reputation, respect, and integrity, you haven't lost anything. And if you haven't lost your faith, you haven't lost anything. And the last thing is that if you haven't lost hope, you have lost nothing. If you got these 5 things, you sustain.
If you were to have dinner with anyone on the planet, who would you share a meal with, break bread, and what kind of conversation would you envisage having there?
With God. I'd love to have dinner with God and ask Him, God, are you proud of me or what I've done as a human being when you sent me on this earth? And how could I have just done it better? Because you are the creator, the founder, the real entrepreneur of this whole universe, right? And what did you really expect out of me, although you gave me manuals and you gave me people and bosses, customers? And I would love to have a dinner with God to understand what it is. What was this all about? What was the real purpose? Money, wealth, everything. When you've tasted everything in your life, success, money, wealth, fame, respect, red carpets, everything, limelight, you kind of reflect. Now what? What next? And I do believe in the potential of humanity and human minds that could pierce through the deepest secrets of the universe to really bring us to a level where we harness that energy inside of us, which I could see buried in so many graveyards for the last millions. It's not only the energy around us, it's a lot of energy within our own universe. And I always say this to people: if you want to be a king or a queen or a leader, just a leader, you need to be a leader of your own universe inside you. You should be a leader of your own heart, desires, wishes, needs, body, just the universe inside you. When you are able to achieve that discipline within you, the whole universe will come crashing at your feet, and you'll be leader of the universe.
Shafaat, this has been a little slice of heaven. Thank you so much.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you for keeping me in.
Hey, AI Geek. Thanks for listening. Your job doesn't stop here. I want you to lend your voice to the conversation. So you can join those conversations, discussions, new trainings, new recordings, and the rest of the AI Geeks by going to aigeeks.co/Discord. Also, share this podcast with a friend, another potential AI Geek. Until then, much love.